What's good, y'all? I bet y'all didn't think y'all was gonna see Wiz in one of these. This is the 2023 Mario Kart. Nah, I'm just kidding. This is the 2023 Mini Cooper S hardtop, 3-door in midnight metallic black. It's super iconic. It keeps that same style that you know and love from movies like The Italian Job, which is actually one of my favorite movies. But this 2023 model comes with a bunch of interior upgrades that we'll get into later and some upgraded performance. So this comes with BMW's B48 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that puts out over 189 horsepower. But in today's video, we're gonna talk about some of the exterior features, some of the interior features, and then we're gonna take it for a spin. So as we check out the front of this Mini S, a couple things that I want to point out. So you have the daytime running lights. They look kind of like an oval shaped halo light, really set it off, gives it a nice look. And then you have these LED lights that kind of, when you turn them on, they kind of dip down and then they refocus. It gives it a really nice look. So hopefully we can get a shot of that where we can show you that maybe in like a little bit of a darker place so you kind of get that full effect of what I'm talking about, but it looks really dope. You don't really have too many pronounced hood lines on this. Everything is pretty much very soft and rounded and things like that. So it doesn't really give you a mean, bold look or anything like that. But I think you kind of get a little bit more of that once you get down here into the grill. Now this grill is kind of like a little honeycomb type of flavor that you got down here. And then, you know, it still has that flat black accent, and I don't really like that. I think it should still be more of like a piano black or like a gloss black finish to really set that off, and I think that will really complement this S badging right here, but they didn't do that, but it's all good. And you got the mini badge right here, and then you have this little faux vent that's right here. I think they should have really opened this up. I think that could have just gave it like a little bit a better aesthetic instead of like this little waffle cone thing they got going on right here. But yeah, man, open that up. Like let's make it look fast. It's an S. It's supposed to be like a little Mario Kart. So let's make it look as such, right? So just dipping down a little bit more, you kind of have more of an open air intake area within the front fascia. There's some cutouts right here. I think you probably could have put some fog lights or something like that to kind of give it a little bit of a different look down there, but that's fine. And then you have some cutouts that are here on the side that basically add to some of that air intake to make the car a little bit more aerodynamic as the air passes through when you're driving. But I will say that overall, just as you look at this vehicle, the handling is good. It has a little bit of a wide stance that you can see, so it's really good for cornering and things like that. So it really does feel like I'm driving a Mario Kart whenever I'm behind the wheel of this thing. It's crazy, and performance-wise, it sounds great when you turn it on. So it has like this nice rumble to it when you turn it on. But yeah, let's go ahead and take it to the rear and let's talk about some of the stuff back there. At the rear of this Cooper S, so a few things to talk about. So there's gonna be some Cooper S badging as well as some mini badging that you'll see here, and some S badging. You'll see that kind of all around the car. So I'll point out a couple spots where those are gonna be located later on in the video. But one of the things I really wanna point out is that back here, they really kept that classic British lights. So you can see just a flash of the British flag that's sitting here back behind the lights, and it looks really good. It looks really good when it's illuminated at night as well. Down below that, you have this bumper. So one thing I'll say about the bumper is it has the parking sensors there, and it's not that gloss black, that finish that you're seeing. It kind of goes between that gloss black and then it kind of goes to like this honeycomb flat black, looks more plastic type of finish. I don't really like that. I think that they should have just kept the continuity there between all of this to just kind of give it more of a luxurious look and feel, because once you get on the interior of this vehicle, it does have all the modern and common luxury. So I think that the outside should also reflect that. Down below that, you have these twin powder coated exhaust tips that look really nice, and I think it goes well with the overall theme of the midnight metallic black on this vehicle. And if I want to get inside the trunk, there's I don't have the keys on me to get inside the trunk. Actually, yes, I do. They're in my back pocket. Now, if I want to get inside the trunk, all I have to do is use the key fob, or there's a button on the interior of the vehicle that I can use to pop the trunk. But be forewarned, this trunk is not automatic. It's not going to open up or anything like that once you actually pop it. So give you a prime example. I'm gonna press the key fob. You're gonna hear the noise. You see it physically pop and physically move, but it's not gonna open for you. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to reach your hand underneath, and there's another button under here, and you're gonna have to manually pull this up. Once inside, there's not a ton of space in here. But good news is the seats fold down if you don't have any passengers in the rear, if you want to carry any larger suitcases or anything like that. But as it currently stands today, you can probably fit a couple book bags and maybe some shopping bags or something like that. Definitely don't take this on a Costco run if you got people in the back. And it also comes with this nice little cover here, so you have some privacy and you can store some things back here without people being able to kind of peek in and see what you got back there. As I mentioned before, they fold down, so there's a lever on the right and left side of the seats that you can use to kind of just fold them all the way down. And then the headrests also fold down. So if you have any problems with visibility or anything like that, which you really shouldn't, then you can always fold the headrest down if you need to. But also they complement the seats folding down because they allow them to fold comfortably behind the front seats. Now let's go ahead and take it on inside. All right, so before we hop in, I just want to point out a couple more exterior features. So you have these nice gloss black rims with the mini emblem on there with the cute tires. Right above that, you still have that flat black finish. I think we could have probably went with more of that gloss black, as I mentioned before. Right above that, you still have some more of this honeycomb that you see all around the vehicle in the front grille and in the rear as well. And that has some S badging on there. And then right above that, you have this light. So that's going to be your turn signal indicator, and it also flashes whenever you try to open the door to go inside. Right above that, you have these automatic folding mirrors that come in handy when you're parked in tight spots or on streets, etc. And then right below this mirror, you have your puddle lights. So those present themselves as soon as you're about to hop into the vehicle. So when you unlock it, they'll turn on, you'll see them. They show up way better at night, but literally it just projects the word Mini on the ground and you have the Mini logo, and I think that's pretty dope. Now to get inside, all you have to do is press this little button on the door, boom, the light flashes, and now you're hopping inside. Now, I feel like once you sit inside this Mini, a couple different personas come to mind. So I know I mentioned the Italian Job before. I talked about Mario and Mario Kart, but should I be Mr. Bean or should I be Austin Powers? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, baby. Should I do that? Is that my persona when I'm in this car? What's your persona when you're in this car? Let me know in the comments. First thing I want to talk about is the interior of this vehicle is kind of spacious. I know it looks small from the outside, but I will say for the sitting area for the front passenger and the driver, this doesn't feel like I'm crammed and cooped up in here. So it feels really good, and it has some modern touches, some luxurious touches. One of the things that I'll talk about are the Harman Kardon sound system. You can upgrade to that. It sounds phenomenal when you're, listening to either XM or if you got the Bluetooth going. Like the bass is thumping in this thing. Like it's like a little mini concert on wheels. So I really appreciate that. Another touch that I really like is the heads-up display. It's not that traditional projection of a heads-up display that you would see on your front windshield, but it's actually a little bar or like a see-through piece of plastic that kind of flips up. And then when it flips up, you'll have, you'll see like the Mini badging on there. You'll see your speed limit. You'll see your nav, if you have any nav settings populated in terms of a destination that you're going to, you're going to see all of that populated on that. So I think that's pretty cool, the way it kind of presents itself. And then when you turn the car off, it kind of goes away as well. Below that, you kind of have this kind of oblong, weirdly shaped, I guess it's kind of like a halo, kind of like the lights, but it's like the front center stack. I wouldn't really call them controls. It's just really a digital dash is what I'm looking at right now. And it has things like your RPMs here on the left-hand side. It has your fuel economy here on the right-hand side. You can see the temperature, various car settings. You can't really manipulate this screen too much. It's really kind of set the way it is, and it's very simple, very minimalist. It's very functional. It does what it's supposed to do. Right below that, you have this really nice upgraded steering wheel. It feels like I can literally take this on a track. I think you can actually track this car too, honestly, but it's a thick steering wheel. It's a leather wrap steering wheel. It has the paddle shifters right behind that. It just feels luxurious. It feels comfortable. And you have your standard audio controls here on the right hand side of the steering wheel. And then you have some of your, cruise control and those types of settings here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. So I think that's pretty cool. In a world where a lot of vehicles come with standard safety features and a plethora of safety features at that, I will say that one thing that this vehicle doesn't have is blind spot detection. I think that's really important to have in vehicles. So many y'all need to go ahead and fix that. The next thing I want to talk about is this infotainment screen. I believe it's an 8.8-inch infotainment screen. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It also has a dual display, so that way you can have your nav going on and you can listen to music. At some points even there's also a triple display, so you'll have your music, you'll have your nav, you'll have your car settings, and there are a few different configurable options. I believe there's about 4 or 5 of them that you can kind of swipe through and have different views that you look at while you're driving. So I think that's pretty cool. I haven't seen that in most cars. One thing I will warn you about is it's mini. It's a mini display. So even the rear view camera, the backup camera, etc., that is all going to look very small as it's all condensed on this screen. So even though this has a big surface area from an infotainment standpoint, it's still very small menu settings and very small screens when you think about reversing and the like. So wrapped around that, you kind of have this ring of light, and this kind of flashes every now and again. It changes colors and lights up whenever you change the various drive mode settings. So there are 3 drive mode settings. So there's green, which is going to be more of your eco mode, and then there's some settings that go along with that, such as your climate control settings and speed warnings, etc., that this car has built in a menu that can help you keep the car fuel efficient when you're driving with that. And then you also have mini or minimalist mode, which is more of a balance setting. And that is going to be there for if you just want to take a cruise and take an easy drive and have a more of a balanced ride quality. And then you got sport, which is going to be a little bit more stiffer. The steering wheel is going to be a little bit stiff as well, along with the suspension. You're going to feel the RPMs kind of kick up when you're driving, and there's going to be a lot more torque when you're pulling off. So you're going to feel that instantly when you switch it into sport mode. And to do that, all you have to do is flip this little switch down here that has just sport and green, but there are 3 settings there, so there wasn't enough room to add the 3rd setting option there, but it's all controlled within this little switch. And this switch is interesting because, again, it kind of goes back to that Austin Powers, or even like kind of like a 007, where you have those switches in the car that you can kind of flip on and off, and the car does really cool things. Now, going back to this infotainment screen, one thing that I'm going to really ding this on is there's this bottom piece here that has band and mode, and you can skip the tracks and kind of some of these numbers down here. When you actually press that, the problem is the whole thing depresses. So it's not like there's individual button options there. And I think that's kind of weird. It makes this feel cheap. As nice as it looks, it makes it feel very cheap. And I don't really like that. Also, the screen right above that is touchscreen, so you don't technically have to use any of that stuff. You can literally just press the screen and do whatever you want to do on the screen. So I found myself more so doing that than actually playing around with this bottom singular piece here that just feels super cheap to me. Also, the volume control is right here in the middle. If you turn the volume up or down, you'll start to see that also reflected on this light bar that's around the infotainment screen. So I think that's pretty cool. Below that, you have your various climate control settings that you can take advantage of. You have heated seats in this vehicle. You have your auto on and off button. You have your traction control button down here. And then you have your start stop button. So that's a little bit different for me. I'm not used to that. Never drove a Mini before. So, and I think this is pretty standard in all of them, right? You kind of have this little switch down here that you can use to start the car instead of a push button or something else. Then going down below that, you have some charging ports and charging options. So you have a 12-volt charger, you have a USB-A, USB-C, you have 2 cup holders that you can take advantage of, and then you have the shifter. The shifter is really interesting. It looks like it could be a manual shifter, but It has an unlock button. You have your various, you have park, reverse, neutral, drive, all that stuff's there. And then you can kind of switch between automatic and manual with that. And then that also complements the paddle shifter. So you can either shift down here or you can shift up here if you're in manual mode. As I move back, I'm looking at some of the menu options down here. So you have a few buttons like menu, media, map, com, which is for the internet if you want to get on that, navigation. And then there's a knob down here, and this all controls this infotainment screen. So you have various options, whether you're touching it or whether you're using this menu down here or these buttons down here, these button controls to actually control this menu. So you kind of have a few options of how to access this screen. And you don't really have a ton of storage in this vehicle, because inside this armrest, you can probably fit a couple things, but there's just a wireless charger in here. So you can just drop your phone in here. It'll expand to fit to, I would say, most phones. I mean, if you have one of those big old like Galaxies or one of those wide phones, probably won't fit in here. But for most phones, this should do the trick. But other than that, you're gonna have to use the glove compartment if you want to leverage any storage within this vehicle. Also, this kind of folds away if you don't want to use it. And you can kind of have some more arm room and stuff like that, but you can always fold it back down if you want to put your elbow on it. So I know I mentioned the seats earlier that are heated, but they have a nice stitching on here. So it's like a quilted, like leather. It has a diamond pattern woven in it, and it has some micro suede accents on the seat. And the seats feel really good. They're kind of like a bucket seat, so they kind of hug you, especially when you're going around those corners and things like that. So I really think that they did a really good job with these seats, just given that this is a sportier vehicle, so it has that sport feel. Also, this has a panoramic sunroof, so you have two shades. So there's a shade on the front part, so I can pull that back, and then there's a shade for the folks that are riding in the back, so they can also enjoy the view as well. Only thing is, only the front part of this sunroof opens, so you can still remove the shade on both sides, but only one area is actually going to open up and let some actual air in and stuff like that. No problem there. I think it's still a pretty dope design. I'm not going to go sit in the back seat, but I'll tell you about it. So there's a decent amount of space back there. I personally wouldn't sit back there, but I think for smaller adults and kids, you can definitely fit back there. There's 3 cup holders back there. Don't know why you need 3, but there's definitely 3 that you can take advantage of. Let's go ahead and take this for a spin. All right, so we're on a highway driving this Mini Cooper S. And I will say that the ride quality is decent. This road is a little bit bumpy, so I'm getting a little bit of shake on the camera. I don't know if you can see it, but I can definitely see it on my end. But it's not terrible, I will say. So ride quality overall is fine. This handles bumps pretty well. The steering is pretty responsive, I would say. So the thing that I really don't like is, I was about to change lanes just now, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, is that there's no blind spot detection. I mean, safety wise, you have, forward collision warning, and then you have your front and rear parking sensors and things like that. So you do have some safety features within this vehicle, but I definitely think that the blind spot detection and blind spot monitoring is definitely a thing that is lacking in this vehicle. And let me go ahead and put this thing in sport mode real quick and take off on them. So it doesn't have like that crazy kick, mind you, 189 horsepower, but I think that this still, it has that kick to it, a small kick to it that kind of gives you that go-kart, Mario Kart feel. This is small enough to where you can kind of zip around in and out of lanes if you want to. So I really like that piece of that. Other than that, interior, the cabin noise is, I wouldn't say this is a relatively quiet cabin. It's not the quietest cabin I've ever been in, but I will say that it's moderate. So you're gonna get some moderate noise, you're gonna hear some wind, you're gonna hear some road noise and things like that, but it's not terrible. Other than that, I think this car sits kind of low for my personal liking. So that means that, you know, if you want to see over bushes or around corners and things like that, you're not going to really be able to. So I like personally a higher ride or something that sits a little higher than this does. So this probably won't be the car for me, and it's probably not my taste. Maybe it's your thing and it's your taste and you may like it, but that's definitely something that I don't personally have an affinity towards. And then I'm looking at this heads-up display. It's pretty decent. With these polarized glasses on, I can still see it, so that's really good. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's just kind of oddly placed on this little screen right here, and some people rather it on the actual windshield projected. So I don't have a personal preference to this. I think it's functional, I think it works, and I think it's fine. Other than that, on the interior, you can't really see it right now, but at night you have some ambient lighting that I think is pretty cool. And it really kind of sets the interior off. The only thing about the ambient lighting is the only thing that you can do is adjust the brightness. You can't, you know, toggle different colors or anything like that. So you really only have one color option. It's kind of like this bluish color, but there's enough other lighting in here that kind of gives it its own aesthetic on the interior. So you don't really necessarily have to worry about the ambient lighting kind of being the main thing that kind of provides the attraction on the interior. One interesting thing as well as we're driving, I know this has nothing to do with the actual driving of this vehicle, but this has a a shade here on the side. So there's one in the front driver's side, one in the front passenger side, and then there's another one here for the driver. So I think that was pretty thoughtful, and I really appreciate the detail in that. But other than that, like I said, this is good ride quality. I'm enjoying my time with this vehicle. I enjoy driving it. I encourage you to check it out if it's something that you're interested in. But I think this is a nice zippy little vehicle. It's punchy to get around town and drive on the highway, etc. But again, not for me. Until next time.